It is only when you shine a light inward, within yourself, that you slowly uncover who you really are, your gifts, your shadows, your life's purpose, and the blueprint of your soul. When you welcome in more light, you are able to hold that light, that you become aware of your Godhood, and form an unbroken connection to the divine. We as humans ask ourselves, who am I? What am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? What is my purpose? There is the mystery of the self, the I am presence, that resides in each one of us. From our human being aspect, we are often searching for something beyond our physical forms. To understand Source and our co-creation roles, our sovereignty, we must first understand ourselves. Mystery schools exist to empower us to know thyself. The term mystery school could lead some to consider the whole thing woo-woo or nonsensical, while others could become fixated on the idea that there lies something out there or outside of self still yet to be discovered. Why? They instinctively understood that overall humanity had a shift in consciousness over time, rendering them with an inability to perceive or comprehend more advanced ancient knowledge. So they focused their energy on reaching those who were either still somewhat more aware or otherwise had a very, very strong desire to increase awareness. Their primary mission was to protect and preserve the ancient systems of enlightenment, healing, manifestation, transmutation, and transformation, so that they can be continually used by humanity for its collective progression. Mystery school teachings are imparted by an oral tradition rooted in shamanic and mystic ways of wisdom. These teachings are handed down unbroken from teacher to student in an unbroken lineage that has withstood the test of each evolutionary epoch. Modern spirituality is a very personal journey, not one that most people take. That is why mystery schools are so important for those searching for inner wisdom and guidance, and a safe place to explore yourself deeper. There is such a place for modern day people to explore their spiritual side, and one we are proud to highlight. The Chesterfield Spiritual Camp was established in 1891 outside of Anderson, Indiana. Modern spiritualism emerged in the mid-1800s and involves the science, philosophy, and religion of continuous life, based on the communication through a medium with those in the spirit world. The camp setting was used to meet, exchange ideas, and witness the demonstrations of famous mediums, and believers streamed to these sites all over the country. This site is very special, the energy truly pure. Spiritualist camps in the 1870s originally consisted of tents and were known for the festive and entertaining environment. Eventually, more permanent structures were built, including both public buildings, auditoriums, hotels, cafeterias, and private cottages. As time went on, more and more cottages were added, and what had started out as a 2 to 6 week summer session evolved into a year-round settlement. The mission statement and membership application truly says it all. Number 1, we believe in infinite intelligence. Number 2, we believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. Number 3, we affirm that correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitutes true religion. Number 4, we affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. Number 5, we affirm that communication with so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. Number 6, we believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule. Whatsoever ye would that others should do unto you, do ye also unto them. Number 7, we affirm the moral responsibility of the individual and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. Number 8, we affirm that the doorway to the Reformation is never closed against any human soul here or hereafter. And finally, number 9, we affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing contained in the Bible and all sacred writings of the world are divine attributes proven through mediumship. Now, Camp Chesterfield was added to the National Register of Historic Places because of its significance as a spiritual camp. Several of these buildings still exist, including a 1914 two-story hotel. The last major development phase of the camp occurred after World War II, including a 1949 hotel, a 1954 cathedral, and a 1958 art gallery. The historic sites consist of 40 contributing buildings, 9 structures, and 2 objects. The structures include several stone bridges and a stone sweat house. The objects are a Native American memorial and a totem pole. Please. Welcome, everybody, to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway, your channel for community support, help, friendship, love, knowledge, and just being there for others. If you're returning, thank you so much. It's good to have you with us. If you're new to the channel, it's so good to have you here. Please like and subscribe, share this stuff out. We put a lot of time and energy into it, and we really, really are dedicated to bringing you very good quality entertainment, so to speak, and just learning new things and knowledge. Quickly, I would like to go ahead and just say hello to everybody in chat. We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll get started with our program. Elderberry, it's good to see you. Milky Way Soul Tribe, Robert V, good to see you as well. Chloe, welcome. Such a pleasure. Loretta Enigma, good to have you with us as well. Let's see, who else do we have? We do have Lucky Stone. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Always love your comments and your contributions. Let's see, who else do we have? I think I pretty much have. Oh, Grumpy Stat, good to see you. Yes, hoping for the best for your wife and lots of healing and love her way. True Seeker, good to see you. Yes, absolutely. Love having you here. And
Scotty Boy's in there.
All right, Scotty Boy, good to see you as well. Yep, it's going by kind of fast. All right, and Positive Backwoods, PNW. Great, positive vibrations. You've got it, definitely. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Teresa. And don't forget, you guys, to unmute yourselves. And she'll give you the introduction. And then Sophia will introduce our wonderful guest tonight.
Greetings, everyone. All righty. Well, I tell you, I am really looking forward to this. I'm so pumped about this show. I enjoyed our time with Terry when he was on a few weeks ago, and now we get to meet Charles, who I hear has a wonderful sense of humor. And he's going to need it because, we're going to invade Camp Chesterfield ourselves at the end of July. So a bunch of us are going to go down there and hang out. But
yeah, we're looking forward to it.
I didn't want to take up too much time, but I did want to point out something that I think is fairly significant about this. I mean, these folks at Chesterfield are phenomenal. And we should have called this show A Field of Dreams, Build It and They Will Come, because that's exactly what they did. They manifested this little by little back in the late 1800s, and boy, did they make it work, and still do. But there is a lot of confusion out there about what spiritualists are versus spirituality. There's a bunch of us that practice spirituality, and that's broad and encompassing. But spiritualism is an art in of itself. It's a natural born gift. But there's a lot of discussion in the media, you know, television, film, books, literature, about what it is and what it isn't. And there seems to be a trend where they have two opposite ends of the extreme. And we're going to find out tonight that's just not the way things are. They either think that on one side, it's a bunch of con artists, always has been, they're always out there trying to make money off of you, and it's all a lie. You know, it's all a decoy for their true agenda. And there's another whole side of it that says, no, it's proof. It's absolute, positive, without a doubt proof that there is an afterlife and that we can communicate with people. And then you've got this mixed bag in the middle who think it's just a new age trend. I'm like, where have they been? You know? So anyway, it's not just a new age trend. So either way you look at it, they think that spiritualism is something that occurred in the past. They're always talking about what happened in the 1800s. They're not talking about the value that these ministers who practice mediumship bring to the table. And they're not talking about the value that they bring to individuals who are like myself, who recently got in contact with my father. Right. There's a lot of value in tapping into spirit, and something that's been going on since, I don't know, the beginning of time. Right. Shamans have done it. I mean, where have these people been? You know? So, but some of them, what we're going to learn tonight is that although spiritualism can be taught and practiced in a mystery school-like setting, and there certainly is at Chesterfield, particularly for people who just want to tap into some of their natural ability and they're not sure of themselves yet, and they want a place of comfort and peace without prejudice and judgment. That's right. To learn more and practice. That's valuable. But what Chesterfield also does, which a lot of spirit churches don't do, is they also have the accreditation where you can go and take courses to build you up to a point where you're able to get credited as a ministry and go out into the world and do what they do and teach others and help heal people. And so it's an amazing movement. And this is what people don't understand. It's actually a religion. Okay? It's a religion, but not in the sense of your other religions where it's all dogma and they try to control their parishioners and they try to control what you think and you have to adhere to every single one of their principles. Spiritualism in itself is a natural religion that you believe in contacting higher realms. You believe in talking to spirits or angels or other guides. You believe in unity. They believe in unity and equality, which you don't see necessarily in every kind of church, and that the soul continues after death. That's right. They believe it, and that we held. Here's what they teach that I think most religions do not. And I don't mean to offend anybody who's a regular member of a religious institution. However, what they do here at Chesterfield and in other places like them is one of their tenets is to hold a personal responsibility to the reality that we are living in. We are not an illusion. We're divinely created and connected with a higher source, a higher power, but not higher in the sense that's better than you, but something that is lifting your consciousness to think on a different level about things.
Well said.
And they show this personal. They show. Thank you. They step up and they show this personal responsibility through what Sophia's always saying, our thoughts, our words, our actions, how we interact with people, how we respond to things.
That's right.
So they're a different kind of religion, and they're not about dogma, and they're not about controlling and manipulating. But they believe it's a natural, original religious form seen in all cultures throughout the world. So with that, I'll just bounce it over to, and I thank you guys for coming and sharing tonight some of your stories. There's some incredible things that they accomplished in some very difficult times, people. And they got through it, and look at where they are today, and you will find out. So, Sophia, do you want to tell us why you wanted to discuss this topic tonight? Why you were bringing your mentors in through the gateway, and what you hope to get out of the show tonight?
It's basically, I didn't think a place like Camp Chesterfield existed. Being born very gifted and very psychic, never in my wildest dreams did I think a place like this would exist. And with the time and energy that I've spent at Camp Chesterfield, I have grown in a way that I can't help but to share it with other people, because I can get unfold in a safe place with people that have experienced what I'm experiencing. Yes, please. And if there's other people out there that are like myself, I mean, the internet goes around the world. You know, I'm not trying to do anything but share the love and the experience that I've had at Camp Chesterfield. And I don't know. I'm excited about it. It's still, so when I look around camp, sometimes it's like, it is real. You know, it does exist. And I'm so grateful for those that are there now that have been mediums. And there's a lot of people involved that aren't mediums. You know, it's just, everybody's important. Everybody. And I'm grateful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Camp Chesterfield, Loretta, is in Indiana. It's one of the original spiritual camps that ever came to be in our nation's history, and especially within the state of Indiana. And they're still running today. They opened in, what was it, Lori?
1891.
1891 is when they opened. And yes, they are spiritualist religious organization.
Loretta can check out our trailer video. We just aired it for 8 minutes, showing you the history and what it's all about. But Sophie, if you want to introduce our beautiful guest tonight, that would be wonderful.
Reverend Therein. He was one of my very first teachers. About 18 months ago is when I started. And it was a symbols class where you work on building your mental dictionary so you can play charades with spirits. If you want to break it all down, that's at least one form of communication. And I thoroughly enjoyed his class. And I kept every time, I mean, maybe every time I'd see him teaching something, I'm like, ooh, I need that. Bam. It's always been a pleasure to work with him. So that's Reverend Therein.
Wonderful.
And Reverend Charles Klopodlo is on the bottom, and he taught me Intro to the Seance Room. One of the very first also was the Modern History of Spiritualism, and just the wealth of information that pours out of his coursework. I had to read the material 3 times because there's so much, and you just don't want to miss it. It's like watching a movie twice. You read it again, and you're just like, how did that? And then that energy, like for someone like me, even if somebody has, passed through a change called death, for people like me, you can still hang out with them. It's just not a tangible, but it's still very real connection. And when he introduced all of the ones that have gone before us, it was just like I was in a crowded room, but there were only, I think, like 6 of us. And it's just another rabbit hole that I'm thoroughly enjoying.
I love that.
Okay.
So we are so curious, Reverend Charles, what brought you to Camp Chesterfield, and a little bit about your story would be wonderful to know.
Oh, my story. Oh, goodness. I was thinking about that beforehand. It's like, what do I say that is, PG-13? Kidding. Well, what's interesting is I believe at a young age, well, I know at a young age that sometimes I would have glimpses of what I call intuition. Well, glimpses of intuition, knowing things before they happen, in tune with time. It's like I could count down from like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and knew something was going to happen the second I hit 1.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
New answers of schoolwork when the teacher was asking without even knowing. Surprisingly, passing tests without studying at all.
Yep.
Done that a couple of times.
Mm.
As I got into high school, I actually had to start studying because whoever was helping me with that wouldn't allow that to happen anymore. And when we had the old AOL chat rooms, there used to be a little chat room where people, psychics, mediums, spiritual people would gather, metaphysicians, and just talk and discuss things. And so there was a gentleman in that chat room who was a resident here at Camp Chesterfield at the time. His name was Ken Owens. And so he lived part-time down here and part-time in Michigan, and actually was a roommate with Reverend Terry Ryan.
Oh, wow.
And so through my communication with Ken Owens, come to find out that he was a practicing psychic and medium and taught auras and chakras, and mentioned to me that his roommate, Terry Ryan, taught, psychic development class. And at the time, I only thought it was just a psychic development, not knowing that one day that we would actually be talking to dead people on a regular basis. And so at the age of 19, 2002, I walked into Terry Ryan's class, thought this was the most amazing thing, begged him to let me come 2 nights a week because he had an advanced class and a beginner's class. And I wanted as much as possible. I wanted to learn as quickly as possible and, be immersed in it. And so then I came to Camp Chesterfield about 3.5 weeks later for the first time. Ken Owens let me stay in his loft where the log cabin currently owned by Rita Hall. And I was here that week taking classes. Oh my God, one day I want to own a house here. It's the most amazing thing. Everything was so magical and mystical. It was so exciting. And then it's like all the teachers and mediums, you put them up on a pedestal and you're like, I will never reach that level. And then as you go along, you realize that they're just normal people, just like you and I. And so throughout the years, I became a certified medium through here in 2007, went through the program, became an ordained minister in 2009, took that and ran with it throughout Michigan and Ohio, and served many churches and spiritual centers, as many as I possibly can, because, me, I'm an overachiever in that way. And I wanted to go as far as wide as I possibly could within my budget at the time to do sermons and messages. And then I'm going through this very quickly here. 2016, 15, I started coming back to camp more often. And then there was this nudge saying, well, maybe I should start working the psychic fairs here. And then Terry Ryan with some others developed the invited guest medium program, which allowed some of us who went through the program to come back and serve their worship service regularly.
Nice.
So my friend Elizabeth Brown and I came back to camp regularly serving message services and church services. And then one night, Reverend Terry Ryan, so I blame him completely for this, we were talking about camp and what's going on with camp. And the idea came up with about, me perhaps one day purchasing a house. And I said, maybe that sounds interesting, but, maybe not anytime soon. And we were talking about it further, and I was getting more and more excited. And I said, well, let me just think about that. So as soon as Terry Ryan and I got off the phone, I sent a letter to Camp Chesterfield, the board, requesting permission to purchase a house. And long of the short of it was, eventually I did get my house about 8 months later. And I'm sitting in the seance room here that I pretty much put the walls up and built, or put the walls back up, because it was one long living room. And so I put the walls back up in here and have my reading table over to my right, and my little circles of chairs here. And spirit comes around as often as they can. I don't let them go beyond the door behind me. You've got to set those boundaries.
Even with spirit.
You up at night,
Mhm.
and so they're not allowed past this door unless they're my guides. And then I moved here full time September 1st of 2021, and I've lived here full time ever since.
Oh, awesome! Somebody's messing with my screen.
It's the spirits. They've come.
It happens.
They've come to
It
say
does.
hello.
Oh, you gotta highlight me.
Well, it could have been my little finger hit something when I was typing a message.
It's all good.
It is the spirit of Teresa. Teresa, cut that out now.
I was the only one touching the board.
So funny.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Sorry.
Lori.
I didn't even realize it.
Keep your
I didn't
hands
realize it
inside.
until I saw Lori's big face.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh yeah, it just came right out at me. I thought she was going to come out of the screen.
We have to
Like,
show
oh my
off her
goodness.
natural beauty. She doesn't give herself credit.
Yeah.
All right.
Shaw.
Sorry, Rev Charles.
Yep.
My pinky in overkill.
Oh, listen, that's fine. No problem here.
We also have Reverend Terry Ryan is joining us tonight as well. He's in the center square, so to speak, and
he's on mute. He's muted.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
There he is. He's got it. It looks like there might be a little bit of a delay, but remember his keys
No,
to the kingdom?
it says his microphone is muted.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Take yourself off mute, Terry. There you go.
There you go.
Hi. Good to be here.
Go ahead, Lori. Hold it
I'm
up.
here to support Charles. So
Yay! Good. We just like to let people know about your book. It was a very, very good read. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and if you get a chance, it's on Amazon. Keys to the Kingdom, Reverend Terry Ryan. So thank you for making this book for us, and we appreciate it. And we know you're here to support Reverend Charles. And I was curious, do you gentlemen know much about the history of the land that this was built on, and why this particular plot was chosen?
Well, it's quite simple. John Westerfield was very, very close with Carol and Emily Brandenburg, and the Brandenburgs owned this property. And at one point, there was a mill near where the river was, but it had burned down and they never rebuilt it. And there really was, it was very undeveloped at the time. But years and years and years before that, Native Americans would come down the river, come off near this area and do Native American ceremonies before they proceeded down the river and had further ceremonies and things near Mound State Park. And so this property has always been associated with some sort of spiritual practice. And so we know that there are vortexes of energy or vortices of energy in several different places here on the grounds. And I think it was just spirit, the spirit of the Native Americans, who really just drew the Indiana Association of Spiritualists in this direction. And in 1890, they had their first picnic near the river. In 1891 was when they had their convention here, and there was a gentleman's agreement between the Westerfields and the Brandenburgs to purchase the property. It was officially purchased, I believe, on August 12th of 1892 for the amount of $3,225.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there are 34 acres of property here.
I was just going to ask, 34 acres. So that's quite a plot of land there. And it's its development is just through time, and each tenure has just grown and grown and grown. So amazing. So I'm curious as to what are the types of classes that you can take, and how do they help you develop your abilities, your psychic abilities, your intuitive abilities? How does that all come into play, and how does that work at the camp?
Oh my goodness, there are a variety of classes that we offer here. In our spiritual seeker level, we have auras, chakras. We have classes on communication, public speaking. We also have classes that talk about ministerial. We have a healing program here as well. And it's all about developing or helping to remind each person that we are all divine and immortal spirits. And the goal is to pull away the ego or the physicalness that we endure in this physical world, and to remind us that we are truly powerful, energetic beings. And the goal of our college, the Camp Chesterfield, the Indiana Association of Spiritualists, is to bring people back into the light of knowing that we really are all individualized part of the great source of all, the oversoul, the infinite intelligence, and that we all have access to that because it all resides within each and every one of us. And so our classes remind people that, you know, you all have the gift. We all have the potential to be more than we currently are. And progression is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. So even when you pass to the other side, you know, you can grow and progress. And like it says, reformation, it's about, you know, changing and growing and transforming. I just saw a little note at the bottom here.
Yes.
We do have classes in person and online. So if you go to campchesterfield.com, there are classes that are listed online, and we do have a couple of coming up.
And that information is in the description for you folks. So just go to the description below this video, and all those links will be there for you, including the website. Thank you, Truth Seeker. That was a great question.
Yes, absolutely wonderful lesson. And so we just started our distance learning classes, you know, when COVID hit. So COVID was a blessing in some ways because it allowed us to move the college online so that we could reach a greater audience, a bigger audience. And we have students from all over the world who are attending our classes. And also the wife of a gentleman who is a host or a speaker on ancient aliens attends our classes as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
That. Yeah.
That is cool.
I had a question for Charles. I had heard that the folks that owned that land before they sold it over to the community were also part of the Underground Railroad, and they actually had an entrance to the tunnels from their barn that extended out to the Quaker family, the Quakers that converted over to spiritualism, that were friends of the Westerfields. And they had that connection in their basement. So they had their seance room on top, but underneath was the opening of the underground tunnel.
Now, I do know that through some of my research, the Westerfields were very, very close with the Quakers, and the Brandenburgs were also affiliated with the anti-slavery movement. Specifically on the grounds, I don't know if there are tunnels, but I do know that in the house that the Brandenburgs owned right near Mound State Park, I believe that's the house that they're referring to, the one that's just...
They built the whole front porch to it. Yeah.
Yep. And so they did have a seance room in there because, you know, Brandenburgs were very, very strong advocates for spirit and spiritualism. And so, so
are there
anti-slavery.
Are there any roots to Rudolf Steiner? He was very big back in the day in the late 1800s for starting mystery schools in Germany.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not exactly sure about that.
Just curious about that one. Maybe you might know.
I wouldn't put it past us.
Yeah.
Well, during that time, like the late 1800s, that whole movement involving the females, it gave the women a voice because they were doing the women's suffrage movement.
That's right.
And they were also speaking out against slavery. And so a lot of the women spiritualists who were part of these camps were doing two things. They were focusing on their own spiritual growth and development and developing their skills, but they were tapping into spirit. Spirit was leading them to create these programs that they could do in clandestine operation behind to help free the slaves and emancipate the slaves. So I was just wondering. So I know that was part of it, but I didn't know to what extent at Camp Chesterfield. It might be that a lot of that was going on right before the association was formed. And then once the school opened up and the camp opened up, they may have not been doing that as much. But I just thought it was a fascinating tie-in.
Well, I know spiritualists of all sorts were at the beginning or at the forefront or on the front lines of the civil rights movement, the anti-slavery movement, women's rights, all of that. And Amelia Colby Luther, who was a amazing speaker, also built a house here. And Reverend Vicky Corkell is actually writing a book about Amelia Colby Luther.
Cool.
And hopefully that'll be out soon, and talk about her impact in women's suffrage and women's rights and civil rights as well. But yeah, I know the Westerfields were very close with, because the Westerfields were around, 1840s, 1843, so all the way up through the Civil War. So they and those associated with them, the Quakers, and were very much involved in anti-slavery.
Well, see, you guys had a rough time because there was a female, I forget her name, she ran for president. Sophia, she was the female, she ran for president. She was one of the spiritualists there. She was running for the office of president, and she was attacked by a lot of the local religious groups because she was talking about women's rights. She was talking about slavery and how wrong that was. And she was also talking about free love and acceptance of spiritualism. And so she was attacked by all these different religious groups, and they started sending reporters in to the camps, especially Camp Chesterfield. They tried to say some people were committing fraud. Even Houdini tried to sneak in, and he got caught when he was sneaking into Camp Chesterfield. But they couldn't prove anything like that. It was all a lie. It was all a lie.
Are you talking about Victoria Woodhull, who tried running for president of the United States of America?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Victoria Woodhull was a revolutionist, let me tell you. She was the first woman to ever run for president of the United States, the first woman to ever speak. I believe I might have this in front of Congress. She really was a trailblazer. Now, I don't know much about her involvement here with Camp Chesterfield, but most likely she was, but I don't have those facts if she was or specifically.
Yeah, just the archives, the National Archives and the history records of the state of Indiana had her visiting there, and she was interconnected. They were all interconnected at one point before
Camp Chesterfield
was actually formed. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Westerfield was around long before spiritualism became a religion or a philosophy or a science, before it kind of organized. And so, because he had, mediums, trance speakers, phrenologists, mesmerists in his drugstore in Union Hall, which was a place that he built on top of his drugstore in downtown Anderson. And so he built that in 1843. And so, he had all of these speakers who would, come around, and he would allow them to serve in his drugstore. And so it wasn't until the 1880s is when they were in Michigan, when they were at Spiritualist Camp in Michigan, which no longer exists, that he said, well, why don't we have this here in Indiana? I mean, if people are going all the way up to Michigan, why can't they come to Indiana? And so that was, the beginning of him trying to get all of these spiritualists together and say, well, let us create our own association.
Well, in the 1880s were a really weird time in terms of religion in the United States, because you also had the birth of the anti-saloon movement, people like Molly Hatchet, and then you had all the revivalists, the Christian revivalists, and the fact that you guys brought up the tents, that kind of reminded me of that, people, wackos like Billy Sunday running around the country, setting up tents. Big, huge meetings, lots of theatrics, stuff like that.
Yeah. I have a quote here, you guys, from that might help here. She's Anna Stockinger. You've heard of Anna Stockinger from Versailles? She's interviewed by the Indiana Magazine of History in September of 1924. She has a wonderful thing to say about you guys. She was talking about spirit. She was talking about.
Talks about the history of spiritualism in Indiana.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I have that whole article. Yes.
I zoned right in on this one paragraph. She says, all through the ages, man has groped for an answer to the question, if a man die, shall he live again? And while the human race as a whole never quite believed death to be the termination of human existence, faith always has to be exerted. And spiritualism has now come offering to fortify that faith and knowledge. But she comes down here and she says, the phenomena of spiritualism were known in the ancient world literature through in India, Egypt, and China, permeated with spiritual truths, and then again in the Middle Ages with its mark on Jesus. But the chain of spirit influences continued unbroken at camp. She's talking about the camps now. The rise and fall of nations have not obliterated the phenomena from human existence. In other words, you can't wipe out the truth. Spiritualism is defined as a belief in the continuity of life after death, and its continual progress and application is belief to the right conduct of living. So she goes on to explain the value of camps like Camp Chesterfield, and she even mentions you, I think, at the end of the article as being one of the only groups that could pull this off, because they had little camps here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys
Kind of a
actually
community
made it
camp.
Yeah. Evolved it into a homestead, into a whole community, and now it's a small town within a town.
Right.
See what I mean by build it and they will come?
Right.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That was one of our secretary's biggest mottos, basically, because she was, Reverend Mabel Riffle, who became our secretary in 1908 or 1909. I'm sure the people, when they elected her, didn't realize what they were getting when she became secretary, because she actually ran the camp for many, many years. But in a way, it was really good because through her mediumship, through her ability to organize, through her educational background, she was a very, very intelligent woman. Anytime that she wanted a new building, she fundraised for it, or she reached out to people and says, basically, give me money. We want to build things.
Master manifester.
I'm assuming that's how she was, because knowing Mabel the way that I think I would know her, she would basically say, listen, give me some money so that we can build our art gallery and museum. So probably did. Dr. Het, who was a doctor from Canada, that's why it says, the Dr. Het Art Gallery and Museum donated quite a bit of money. And Howard Maxson, who was part of the Sheriff's Department in Cook County, Illinois, who was originally supposed to arrest Mabel when she was going to do a demonstration of mediumship in Cook County, Illinois. And so the chief of the sheriff sent Howard Maxson to arrest Mabel. And so she began her demonstration and immediately went to him and brought through his son, George, who had died. And so not only did Howard Maxson not arrest Mabel, but she got a wonderful police escort out of town.
Yeah.
And he became one of our biggest contributors and donors.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so after he died, there was money in a trust to help pave the roads as well.
Wow.
And
That's
so,
interesting.
So a lot of the buildings around here were Mabel's ideas, Mabel's basically her pushing to have them. Our stone grotto or garden of prayer that's in the middle of the grounds that looks like a beautiful little grotto was the brainchild of Mabel, because one day she had a vision that she was floating above the camp and she saw this beautiful stone building with this light just pouring out of it. And so when she came to, she said, well, I must build this. So Mabel, being Mabel, gathered people and they went down to the river and picked all the stones up and had it built. And then the other room was added several years later.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm wondering, and I have a question for you. Because of the history of the grounds, would you share any profound experiences you've had with maybe some of the people that have been there in the past?
Some of the people, well, I do know, Terry Ryan, I'm going to tell on you. I wasn't here for this, my aunt, and Terry Ryan. So I used to sit in a circle in Michigan every Thursday night for about 9 years, and we would do physical phenomena. Basically, physical phenomena is where phenomena and things happen outside of the medium's control, such as levitation of trumpets, audible voices, lights, apports, those things.
Mhm.
And so Reverend Therein was here with my circle, which I don't say my circle because I wasn't here. And one of the things that he experienced was Reverend Mabel coming through and speaking to him very, very audibly and very loud. One day I'll let him continue the story because she was very, very strong. And I would like to say encouraging in some areas, but well, that's a different story. Some of the things that I've experienced, well, in my seance room here, I brought the group from Michigan to sit in here, and we had Clifford Bias, who was a former medium here who lived across the street, spoke. Let's see who else. Austin Wallace spoke through the trumpet here in this seance room as well. Virginia Falls, who lived to the east, west of me in the Stone House, she came through and spoke as well. Now, outside of that, I did have an experience one time in our hotel. For about, 19 years. I never felt anything in the hotel, never saw anything. Everybody said they had all these wonderful, amazing experiences. Well, my experience was I went to sleep. I went to sleep and I woke up and slept amazingly. But there was one night I was in the hotel room and I woke up and I saw this man standing right next to my bed, as solid as I can see this computer screen. He smiled and then started to dissipate. That was probably outside of the trumpet seances and things that we had here in this house. One of probably the most profound things that I have seen or experienced in the hotel. Now, there have been some amazing things that have happened through getting messages or receiving messages and giving them as well. But I think the hotel was probably the one thing that sticks in my mind the most.
Wow.
That's
Fascinating. Because, gosh, the history is so steeped in all of that. So the energy's just got to be all over the place. But I'm curious when we come to visit how that's going to affect us as well.
cool.
Because we're very open.
We're very
and we can pick up
into-
too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to be mind blowing, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
I just want to say both Charles and I are Capricorns, and as a result, we're natural born skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
So we have zero tolerance or patience for crap or fraud or anything like that. Zero.
Bet. Good.
But we're also very critical about those who claim to demonstrate those things, and so we always insist on being able to sit and be part of that and make our own conclusions about that. So, when he or I or anybody says X, Y, and Z happened, I will tell you that we know that it happened.
Right. That's good, though. You need to validate and protect you.
Yes.
Do you experience that
integrity.
much?
Oh, yes, heavens, yes.
Okay. Wow. Surprising.
Yeah. This is Charles's bit, but I'll just say I was fortunate. I came to camp in 1983 when the last of the great physical mediums were still alive here. And so I had to sit with them frequently, a variety of them, multiple times over a number of years, and had amazing experiences and have tangible things that came as a result of those seances. In fact, I'll show you one.
Okay.
That's why I got into this. It's the evidence. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do the work to tune your gifts. That's why I go to classes and get the evidence, get the phenomena. And that's why I'm a huge fan of CAPS. Because evidence.
Yeah. I was sitting with Reverend Bill English one of our many times, 15 or 16 of us, and we all sat around the walls in kind of a U shape. And Bill's trumpets always had magnetic bands on them, and so they were charged. And so when we were in the dark, you could tell when the trumpet was up. His trumpets would chase each other around the room, and we had wonderful times. So one time, I and my friend Andy were sitting there with our shoes off underneath our chairs for a trumpet seance of some kind. When we got done, Andy went to put his foot in his penny loaf and said, "Ow!" I said, "What's the matter?" And he pulled out an Indian spear point this long that was in his loafer underneath his chair
Oh my goodness.
against the wall. Well, I thought, well, what the heck? I went down and looked, and behind the heel of my shoe, underneath my chair, was this. It's a carved shell with my guide white horse on the top.
Oh,
Oh,
Gorgeous.
wow.
It was on the floor, behind my shoe, underneath my chair.
Nice.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
Evidence.
Yeah, I would say that's a profound experience.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Gosh.
Would there be any symbolic significance to that imagery, or?
Well, yes, I have a spirit guide named White Horse, and that's what's carved on top of the shell.
I get it. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
There was another one in your
turn that back over
history.
to Charles. So
There was another person in your history that had the in the history of spiritualism early on that had channeled. Was it? I think it was White Horse. They actually channeled the entity of White Horse, which would mean that that entity is still around to this day and expressing itself to you.
well, like in the physical world, we have lots of people named John and James
Yeah.
and Robert and so forth. In the
Yep.
spirit world, there are many white horses.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's more than one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well,
makes sense to me.
absolutely, because I know 3 different people who all have a guide that says White Horse,
Yes.
and they're all
Mhm.
different spirits, different
Yes.
beings.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Maybe they're
Yep.
different aspects of the spirit.
Or maybe they're just different beings.
Yeah, they're
Or
different
different
people who
entities.
walk
Yeah.
the earth at different
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Different
yeah.
spirits. Yeah.
White Horse is also a little town that I know of.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm sure
Where
there's
would that
plenty
be
out in the
located?
Midwest.
Eastern Bohemia.
Ah, Bohemia.
Bohemia.
Well, that's interesting.
hmm
That's
Wow.
cool.
Incredible.
It's kind of like a ghost town. It's literally like nobody lives there almost. It's like 2-3 houses and that's it. It's called White Horse.
So, can we go through just a couple of your Indiana Association of Spiritualists has that membership application? Lori covered it in the video, the 9 tenets that your association holds. And I was reading through it, and I wanted to just get your interpretation of some of the meanings of these things.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I feel them very strongly, but I just want to know how you express them. The first one is, we believe in infinite intelligence.
Absolutely. Infinite intelligence, in most religions, they believe that there is a man, a god, a being that is sitting on a throne, sending either down lightning bolts or judging people left and right. We know as spiritualists, as metaphysicians, that everything is energy, everything has intelligence. And so that being said, we know that there isn't a single person sitting on the throne. And so the reason we use infinite intelligence, because the word infinite means vast, limitless, so beyond everything that we can see and feel and sense and perceive. And in intelligence, we know that as mind, consciousness, and all things that relate to that. And so when it comes to infinite intelligence, in my opinion, I believe that the term was used because we didn't want to anthropomorphize a being or a deity
Exactly.
in our image, because if we really think about it, we come from God. God doesn't come from us, or infinite intelligence, or the Great Spirit. And so if we go all the way back to the original source, it is pure intelligence, pure consciousness, pure love, pure energy. And each of us has the ability to tap into that infinite intelligence, or the oversoul, or the great mind, and use it the way, or tap into it the way we like.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes, if that rings a bell. A lot of those tenets sound a lot like what he would talk about in his books. I mean, was he related in any way to the spiritualist movement, or?
I'm sure it's possible that he, came to one of the camps or churches, and
because it was a big movement. It was a big movement back in the 1910s and 1920s.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sure, absolutely. Because
yeah.
during that time, you had the Christians and the other major religions, but spiritualism in the early 1900s had about anywhere between 3 to 4 million followers,
Mhm.
and so it is quite possible that there was influence from that, because we even know when we look at Alcoholics Anonymous and read through the steps and things, you can tell
Mhm.
that Bob Wilson, I think his name was. I'm not
Yep,
exactly
Bob
sure.
W. Bill
Um,
W.
there is influence of this type of spirituality, and now there's an unsubstantiated claim that Bob Wilson came here to Camp Chesterfield. There's no proof in that, but we know that Frank Amos, who was affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, died here in a house on Camp
Well,
Chesterfield.
there you go. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And Frank
There's
Amos knew Bob Wilson, from what I understand.
a lot of networking, a lot of crossover. People knew each other. They followed each other from camp to camp,
Oh,
kind
absolutely.
of like we would do now if we could. If travel was more open than it is. Let's see. Number 2, we believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. The phenomena of nature.
The phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual. So we know that science and metaphysics states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if energy is and always will be, it is and always was in some shape or form. So you cannot create something from nothing. So
Right.
everything that we see in the physical world, the natural world, or the spiritual world had to have come from somewhere. Where was that? The original source, which is God or infinite intelligence or the supreme being or the creator. And so all of that energy is expressed in the physical or in the spiritual, and there is that energy in all things. And if you look at the vibration of things, we know that a rate of vibration determines the nature of something. So the higher that something vibrates, the more such as water vapor or clouds, the thing, or you lower the vibration, it's lower, but it's still energy in its rarest form. It's just applied differently. And so God is expressed through all things, in all things, as all things.
Right. So do you feel the same way some of us feel? Is I'm a spirit, a creation in spirit first, living in a physical body to experience the physical world. But
Oh,
I am one
absolutely.
and the same. I'm both spirit and body. I'm not
Yes,
an
both.
illusion. I might create certain aspects of the reality that I live in by the way I think about things, but I know I am a living creature, both spirit and flesh.
Absolutely. As you are at this moment. So at this moment, you are the sum total of all of your experiences this lifetime. And if you believe in past lifetimes and even
Yeah.
beyond. So right now, you are the sum total of all of those experiences. And all of those experiences in this lifetime are real and exist. And we know that we are spirit encased in this physical flesh, this physical body for a temporary time for whatever reason, to learn, to grow, to help out humanity, to educate ourselves, or to help coach and educate other people. And so when the physical body dies, your spirit, your consciousness, everything that you are beyond the surface of the skin will continue on, and then you perhaps may have an opportunity to have another lifetime, and some of
Right.
those memories may get put on pause while you live out that lifetime, and then when you die, it'll be unpaused, and then those memories will come back into your consciousness
Right.
awareness.
So, do you see a difference between spirit and soul? They're used interchangeably, it seems sometimes,
Well,
but
okay, so
but
now we're
people
getting
make a
into
division.
Spiritual anatomy.
now we're
Uh-huh.
getting into spiritual anatomy and really getting into now the
You have a
term.
course on that?
Heck yeah.
Well, we
Oh
do have a
wow!
class on spiritual anatomy
Wow.
Yeah.
now,
Awesome.
which, I mean, it can take time, but essentially, at the core of who you are, now this is my belief and my interpretation, at the
Sure.
core of who you are an individualized spirit or spark of the divine, the creator.
Hmm.
And as you have pulled away from that and individualized, you have developed your own individual personality, your own emotions, and all that. That is the soul that is wrapped around that spirit. So you've
Ah.
got your spirit, your soul, and then your body.
Mhm,
But then you have the
mhm.
different layers of all of those as well. You know, the astral part of yourself. So you've got the physical, the etheric, the mental, the causal, the astral, and all of those other bodies that make up you. And it really is interesting. And the thing is that those bodies aren't inside of you. They're actually all around and about you. And
Like
there's
a
only a
shell.
fraction of us experiencing the physical at the moment. There's so much more of us that are not even in this physical plane of
Yes.
existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
love
I
it?
know that.
All
I
day
Yep.
freaking
long.
know that
Let's
because
go
I've had
all day.
one toe in one and one toe in the other.
Love
I've
it.
actually been in two places at one time, so I know the truth in
Sure.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's
You know,
part of your
the
teaching. Then
physical
that's
and
great.
linear and all of that only exist in this plane of existence. You know, it really, there's so much more than we can grasp the understanding of, quite honestly.
I believe
And
that.
even what I know would barely fit on the head of a threading needle, quite honestly, and even less,
Mhm. Mhm.
because there's so much
Yeah.
more out there.
Yeah, I tend to go with the interpretation as proffered by Czech spiritualists of the 1800s, specifically Brett Kafka or Franz Barden. I'm sure you're familiar with those. Who, because of the nature of our language, of the Czech language, soul and spirit is actually the same exact thing, same word. It's just that one is a male version or the male tense, and the other is the female tense. So
Hmm.
it's soul and spirit is actually the same thing. It's just like the left and right half of the brain.
Hmm.
That's
That's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Possibly.
hmm
I don't say no to anything, so possibly.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
when you're in spirit, you're really just the energy. So you're not really, uh, would you really be, feminine or masculine unless you have, it just seems that's a physical aspect, not a
Well, it
spiritual
is.
or
Male and female. Now, there are energies,
yeah,
So
which,
the law of
north and
polarity basically says there is an active and a passive energy. You call it masculine, feminine,
hmm
or,
positive, negative, north,
yeah,
south,
there you go.
magnetic
exactly. And so there are
poles.
Okay.
polarities, and the goal of a metaphysician or a medium is to do what they can to get in balance, because there are
Yeah.
times that you're going to need assertive, active, masculine energy to do some things.
hmm
Yep.
And then when we work with mediumship and other things, you have to get in that receptive, passive
Yep.
state where you're open to receiving. Um, and so the goal is
Mhm.
to be in balance while
Absolutely.
also being in the physical. So good luck with that.
Yeah. Finding balance. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the
Maintaining
trick.
it.
That's the trick. Yep. Fascinating discussion. No doubt about it. Grandpa Brian, what do you think about all this?
I am in accord.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Truly, we are spiritless bodies.
Fascinating.
There's nothing in the world that is not divine in nature. And that would include things that we don't like or think are evil. There is nothing that is not divine in nature, and everything serves a purpose in the divine plan. And so the more that we can embrace that concept in our consciousness, I think the greater we have a chance to grow, expand our consciousness to accept even greater truths.
Mm-hmm.
But I am in full accord.
Yeah. Concepts, learning new concepts and expanding your mind. That's what really kind of pulls you in. And then you just get this hunger to know more. And it's like the more you know, the more you want to know. So
Yeah.
it
And
is
then the more you
it's,
realize you don't know all that much to begin with.
yes. I was
Mhm.
just going to say that.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like at least once a week we go, wow, and like you're not surprised, are you? I'm like, yes. Well, we shouldn't be, but we are.
Mm-hmm.
But see,
Do
that's
it
the thing.
again.
Yeah,
It just it builds. It
Mm-hmm.
builds.
that's the thing. We all of us here accept the reality of so-called paranormal manifestations and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But every once in a while, when you get one of those, it's still a shocking thing. Like that rubber ducky behind me.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
hmm
Um, I've got another question for you, Reverend Charles. What's your understanding of spirit guides and how do they help us in everyday life?
Yay.
Well, many different spiritualist organizations, mediums, and people have their own idea, thoughts, and structure of spirit guides. Now, our spirit guides are just like Terry Ryan would always say, are like oh, my mind just went completely blank. So you've got the NASA, you've got all the people that are trying to get the spaceship into space towards the moon or in the space station. So you've got all of these panel of people
I
that
love
are
this
trying to
analogy.
guide the NASA astronauts into space successfully, get
Yep.
them up there, allow them to do their walk, and then, bring them back home. And then sometimes while they're up there, they've got to figure it out on their own. So our spirit guides, in my opinion and interpretation, are essentially those guiding forces who are with us all the time, who assist us, provide guidance, support, encouragement, who will not live our lives for us, and most often will never tell us what to do, but will help us to get to the answer, help us solve the problem ourselves. And when we do mediumship or messages, we've got guides that help us with that. I do know of one time when I was working on a specific project, there was a new guide that came close to help me with that project. Now, it wasn't going to be anything that was going to be life altering or affect my karma in any way. So they actually worked with me to help me with this. Now, if we have lessons in life and things that we're supposed to learn, our guides will just be there to show support, but will never interfere.
That's my experience.
And so they're there to guide us, to assist us, but not live our lives for us.
Right.
They're very good at nudging, and they'll never ever, in my experience, make you feel bad in any way. And if you're feeling that way, then that's probably not your guide because they're so
Right.
loving, so understanding of your situation, what you're going through, and just immensely loving and kind and supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think a lot of people are under the impression they'll say, "Ask my guide if I'm going to get this job. I want to know if spirit thinks I should do A, B, or C." And really, and when we connect with them to do a reading for someone, we try to give the essence of the message. But we can't always give an exact yes by this date and by this, like reading a crystal ball and reading the future. Because what we get from spirit are indications of certain energies or certain things that they know are coming your way, and they're trying to give reassurance. And so they give an answer that seems to some people not firm enough, therefore it must be bogus. Well, no,
And it
it's not
has
bogus.
divine
It's
timing
just that
too.
divine timing, things have to unfold a certain way. And so their response to you might be, during this time of the year, you're going to be experiencing certain things, embrace it this way, look at it from a certain perspective and go with it. And by then, you will have to make that decision for yourself. And it's true, they try to guide you, not tell you what to do, how to think, or how to act. And sometimes my guides will give me multiple choice. Well, what do you think? You want to do A, B, or C? And I go, okay, Nate, thanks. Thanks for your help. And I'll get a little frustrated with him, but he'll come back around and he'll nudge you one way or the other, but he won't tell you what to do. He'll tell you what to think.
Terry has a comment there, Teresa. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people think when they ask questions like that, they think the future is set in concrete and stone, and it's not. Because we all have free will and personal responsibility, and there are many factors, often involving other people, other events, that can affect the outcomes along the way. And so my feeling is that there's a divine flow in the universe that contains all the information there ever was. And that we often pick up on the direction or the flow of that energy as much as we possibly can. But for the most part, it's difficult to do what you say, nail down some specific times and dates, or what's the name of the man I'm going to marry, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much fun would that be? It's kind of like knowing the answers to a test. When you're being tested, I mean, how are you going to learn and grow from that? How are you going to learn from those experiences if you know exactly what's coming and how it's going to unfold?
Ask
And
Charles.
again, yeah, go ahead.
Ask Charles about his experiences in the group in Detroit where a spirit made them work. They'd ask, "Who do you think this is?" Speaking, Charles, you picked that up, but they challenged the group a lot.
Oh yeah, when we were doing our circle and we're getting to a point where we're able to ask questions and things, a lot of times the spirits will basically say to us, "Well, what do you think about that?" or "What do you want to do about that?" And if it was wrong, then they would tell us to work on it. They never gave us the answers. They made us work for it, and they made us get the answers ourselves. I remember one time in the circle, I don't remember exactly how the question I formulated, because I'm the type of person that at any given time, I've got a million questions, running through my mind, and I have continuous follow-up questions because I want to know the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs. I want to know how everything works. That's how my analytical mind works. And so the spirits would come through and say, "Okay, Charles, you can ask one question and pick your most important one." And so this one particular night, I asked the question about something, and they said to me, "Well, you need to figure out the answer, because if we tell you, that lesson will be 10 times harder, and you may not even accomplish it in this lifetime."
Good point.
And so I said, "Okay, well then don't tell me." And so I sat back in my chair and I thought about it. And so then I sat forward and I gave them the answer. And what was so interesting, and I still am so fascinated about this, now the answer was right, but because I got it right, it's like the spirits who were speaking and those who were also there were having a party because I got it right and it was correct. And I was thinking, okay, well, yeah, I got it right. There's nothing big about that. But I think the thing was, because I figured that out on my own, and I came to that conclusion, or came to the answer on my own, it was like I reached a milestone that if they would have told me, that it would have pushed whatever progression that I would have gone through by coming on my own, would have been pushed into another lifetime, or pushed many years later.
Right on.
And so it was like a little celebration, a little party at that moment. So the question about synchronicity, I think synchronicity happens when we are in our lives, and when things seem to sync up, we're on the path. When we have those deja vu moments, it's like reminding us that what we're doing is where we're supposed to be at that moment, and we are following our intuition, following our guidance, and things are kind of syncing up, because it's like, yes, keep going, you're going the right way. And synchronicities, I think sometimes in life, things just line up because we are going with the flow. And when we're not going with the flow and not, in harmony with natural law, things kind of get a little messy and a little stressy.
Chaos.
Come up against these big old walls and things. Sometimes the walls are lessons. Sometimes the walls are supposed to be there to help us to overcome and to become stronger and challenge ourselves.
Right.
But when things seem to sync up, it's because we're in that flow of energy, and it allows it to happen.
Yeah, Pa Joe says finding the center of balance seems to bring further down the road of change. I think that's exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't take us long to figure out that, we're resisting. And whenever there's resistance, it's almost like you're working against yourself.
Well, I heard a phrase, I don't remember who said it or where it is, but what you resist persists.
Yep.
And will continue to persist as long as you resist. So when you keep pushing against something, it's going to push back on you.
Well said.
Yes, very well said.
And when you're working as a medium, or you're trying so hard to connect and get something, the harder you try, the the further away it is.
Mhm.
And so it's
It's
like
true.
kind of relaxing your mind, just allowing it. It's getting
Being
into
in the
that
flow.
state of allowing and getting that state of flow. That's when things happen so much faster. An interesting story. A friend of mine used to loves, hasn't been in a while, love to go to the casino. And he would take with him about $2,000. And he didn't care if he won any money. He didn't care if he lost it. He was
Uh-huh.
just going to have a good time. Most of the time, he came back with more than he went with because he didn't care if he lost it or if it was
No
his
expectation.
there was
Yeah.
no expectation. So most of the time, he would just go to whatever slot machine or table that he felt guided to, and it would just happen. And he would win quite a bit of money.
That's cool.
What's his
Yep.
name again? Just kidding.
Now that I'm not going to say.
It's not like you're going to give us the lotto numbers.
No.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
I
No.
understand.
I know.
Terry Ryan knows who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you have now? You have both these remote courses that you can sign up on your website to do Zoom classes and courses.
Yes.
And then now, do you have to have a membership in the church of the Spiritualist Church there, or the association itself? Do you have to be a member in order to take any of these classes?
No, not at all. You don't have to be a member. Anybody can take our classes, our distance learning, everything that we offer, attend our church services, online message services. Now, as a member, you do get a bit of a discount when you're here in person.
Right, right. Yeah.
And you get discounts on our hotel as a member, and you get some discounts in some other areas. But online, no, you don't even have to be a member of our association at all.
But I think your association is also connected with that. Now, yours is a state. Is it the state of Indiana?
No, so ours is the Indiana Association of Spiritualists. So it's just our own individual entity.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but isn't there also another layer to that, which is at the nationwide level, or is it the statewide level?
We're not part of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches.
Okay.
No, that's another organization that actually came years later.
Yeah, it came after. Yeah.
Interesting.
It came after. I was like, that's funny. But so one can either participate as an individual and take advantage of some of the classes and the training and interaction with you all, or they can join the association. And then now, if they're going to go for accreditation towards acquiring a ministry or
now, if you're going for certifications, then you would have to be a member.
Yeah, because
and then if you wanted to test for, I believe it's spiritual seeker, I think you have to be a member for 1 year. For medium missionary, it's 2 years, and then it's a year after.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you have different levels of initiation. In other words, you have different levels of.
So, like, this is spiritual Yale here.
Pretty much.
Yes, I'm Professor. Oh, you. Thank you very
Sorry.
much.
It's gonna stick. It's gonna stick.
I love it.
Professor.
Wish and slick.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well done.
I had a look at the curriculum, and it looks like the curriculum for any 4-year college. Really, I mean, if you go through like all the courses, you wind up getting the equivalent of like a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
it's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Yeah, and to me, now you see why I looked at it as a mystery school, because that's the way things were done through years of study and initiation at different levels and different degrees that you earned along the way to full mastery. And so it's run a lot like that, except that we have the virtual world these days to allow other people from remote locations. But people used to travel from long and afar to join a community like yours. And that's another thing about it, is you've established it like a community, not unlike the show we talked about last week with the Essenes and having different groups at different locations. So there is another school that I didn't know if you were affiliated with them or not. Let me bring them up here. There's a couple here. One is the College of Psychic Studies, It's similar to Camp Chesterfield. It was founded 125 years ago by a group of eminent scholars and scientists. Its purpose was to facilitate formal investigation into the psychic and mediumship phenomena, meaning paranormal investigations. And it was a topic of debate in the Victorian era as well. But in the interviewing period, they claimed that the nature of their work has evolved to incorporate more general exploration of consciousness beyond matter. And they have a strong focus on the development and understanding of mediumship, psychic ability, healing, because you all get into that too, as well as a growing capacity of science to explain and explore the phenomena. So they're called the college, psychic college. But they're not a community like yours. They're not situated where people actually are resident and live in and have cottages and in a campground that they could stay in. So that's very different.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't necessarily define them as a mystery school per se, but they could be. The other one's called the Nine Gates Ministry School. Offers original wisdom teachings through various cultures. Now, this reminded me of you because you guys are very culturally diverse in that you don't discriminate against different people that have come from different religious backgrounds or cultural backgrounds. In fact, you don't require that they convert.
Oh, no, not at all.
To
and
your
we
practice.
We prefer that they don't if that's what they feel like they want to continue to pursue. We accept everybody from every religion. You know, we have a gentleman who is a medium missionary, a certified medium through our organization, who is a Methodist minister down in Greensburg. We also have another gentleman who comes from, I can't think of where, who is a Buddhist who is, you know, a Buddhist spiritualist.
Yeah.
We also have, we had a Catholic sister, nun, living here at one point. We had Father John Rosner, who was a priest, who lived in the house just near me. So we've had people from various different backgrounds who have come here, who've lived here. There was a Chief Mexis who was, you know, a Native American chief who was a resident staff medium here at camp for many years, and his wife, Princess Lonefeather. And we actually have his authentic war bonnet and her authentic garb in our museum on display.
It's legit cool.
Wow.
That is awesome. So
case.
It's non-denominational, basically. But
True.
Here's
well, we're all denominational. I don't want to say non-denominational. We're just open to everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if they'll put up with me, hello.
Oh my God!
Come on.
It's like
about weird
like,
WYRD.
really.
Like, yay!
I'm surprised I haven't given myself a concussion the times I've rolled my eyes at Sophia.
Me too.
Me too. No, just kidding.
I love
that. I want to say that periodically we do get a couple of wild things through the gates, you know, and so keeps us on our toes, you know.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, now this school has 9 different. Well, I'm sure you have many more than 9, but they have 9 different masters who are teaching the wisdom of Celtic, tribal African, Native American, Sufism, esoteric Christian, Hindu, Taoist, Hawaiian, Huna, and Tibetan Buddhist traditions. So, in other words, they're all teaching the same thing. They're all teaching spiritualism, but they're bringing different aspects into it from different cultures and backgrounds and beliefs. So their staff is very culturally diverse, not just their students.
Absolutely.
So I think they kind of resemble a mystery school, but they sure have mixed the bag of goodies, haven't they? But by including all of that, I mean, what do you study? I wouldn't know where to begin, you know, because
I've studied somewhere and go with it.
Yeah,
that's it. That's
I took
exactly right.
3 years in world religions and I came out of it with more. I came out of it going, I'm none of these.
That's normal.
More questions than answers. I don't think so. Yeah.
Well, the thing about religion is the religion is formed from one person's belief system. So they're teaching what they know from their belief, from their experience. Spirituality is you having your own experiences.
there.
Right.
You know,
Right
and that's
on.
why we try to teach people to get in touch with their own inner guidance, their intuition, their spirit, their soul, everything beyond. Even if you get rid of the structure or the religion of spiritualism, you still have spirit communication, you still have the philosophy, you still have an amazing way of life. It doesn't have to be done in a church or a cathedral or in the buildings. You know, in the summertime, we do messages out in the middle of the grove here, and it's amazing. I've given some of my best messages outside on the tarmac over here than I have in the buildings. Which, you know, there have been people giving amazing messages, but I think outside, something without nature, that energy is just enhancing, and it just really
Yes, the
Just as the
connection,
Native American Indians,
Oh
have
my God.
experienced.
Terry,
Yes.
Terry did a great job when he was on with us when we were talking about how these different impulses happen in humanity at different times. And last week we were talking about how it was the master of Jesus, the Nazarene, who came in at just the right time to bring some of these messages. And it seems to me that the energies on the planet have been shifting the last 200 years or so. They're always shifting. But these schools have kind of adapted with it, but they haven't changed their basic fundamental underlying teachings and principles. So the massive energy shifts mean that we're once again, here we are in a cycle where everybody is on a frenzy right now about transhumanism and artificial intelligence and nanotechnology, blah, you know, and then we've got the alien invasion and, you know, so there's all these different lines of consciousness. And so where do you feel is the most value of your mediumship skills in this kind of environment when you're dealing with helping people who are coming to you with such confusion or angst over everything that's going on?
That's a good.
That is a great question.
Mhm.
So where?
I'll tell you what I say.
Yeah, Terry, go
And
ahead.
I believe in self-empowerment. That among the things we do as a medium is to do our best to assist people to empower their own lives, which Sophia will know. One of the reasons I like natural law or universal law, because it's tools anyone can pick up and use to improve their lives. And so I think a major portion of what we do, besides proving the continuity of life after death, is empowering people in their daily lives. Because the majority of them are in their human state, going about their lives, trying to do the best they can in the lifetime that they have. And that's their consciousness. And anything we can do to help improve that is a good thing.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's a non-denominational, non-dictatorial, non-hierarchical spiritual movement. You know, because as regards like dictatorial spiritual movements, you got all these organized religions out there that are just not fun. They're not fun. But this sounds like fun.
It is fun.
We chuckle because periodically we still hear people say that they think we're a cult. Well, most folks need to go look up the definition of a cult.
That's right.
Tell it.
We're the furthest thing from that. We don't make people give their money and property. Spiritualists historically are among the most free thinkers possible, and we all have strong opinions, and we're very diverse. We always have been, we always will be, and so we're the polar opposite of what a cult would be.
Self-empowerment, self-responsibility.
And also,
that's what I get.
One of the definitions of a cult is like once you join, you can't leave. You know, like the Roach Motel, roaches come in, but they don't check out.
Well, and some of these people, we would love for them to, continue on your spiritual path. Go with God. Go.
Bye.
Right.
Yeah.
Go.
Have a
So
nice
much
life.
love.
I say that with much love and many blessings.
Yes, there you go. I love that.
So please feel free to exit the gates.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're over there.
And don't let it swing and hit you on the tush on the way out. Blessings.
I love that. I love that.
So long, Karen. Okay, so I think that I think probably what attracted Sophia to us after Brian brought her in the first couple of times. Lori and I and the rest of us, to a certain extent, have kind of evolved our program here, which when we were first getting started, we were discussing everything spiritual. We were mixing it up because we're part of a larger community of people, and they all come at it from different. But we had to get it down to what do we feel we can contribute, and what society is. And so Lori has helped bring that focus to it. And so we think we play, or would like to think we are playing, just like you, and I think other places like you, a vital role in unfolding everything that's going on in this age of rapid change. And by embracing our higher life purpose, we have discovered, both of us, right, Lori, have discovered in the past, since the time we've been together, a higher life's purpose. And I see your college doing the same thing, becoming positive change agents, becoming those, teaching, showing other what we've learned in our self-development and self-mastery, how we've been
on an individual basis,
on an how we manifest and experience the spirit world, and mastery over self, our emotions, our responses. Those are the messages that we've been trying to put out there, while we're still looking at all these other things like holistic health and herbs, and we get into a lot of different topics, but we just feel like it's, and what's going on in society is we're being shown these things ourselves because we're being asked, we're called upon to share it.
I was nudged. I was just blatantly nudged.
Yeah.
We'll go with
I was
nudge.
terrified. I was actually terrified.
Yeah.
Wasn't I? I was afraid. I was
Absolutely.
Yeah. Confronting myself. And I mean, things were happening and I didn't know how to interpret them.
Well, and self-discovery for me, being spiritual, is connecting with yourself and understanding that you're just so much more than who you think you are. And when you embrace that and you understand how it works, and then you start being curious and you ask the questions, and then you start, as Reverend Charles would say, he'd start answering the guides with knowing the question. And I get that because I do the same thing with my guides, and they just get a kick out of how you figure things out. But we're really in a special time nowadays, where all of this growth is really exponentially happening. And it's just a fantastic experience. And my life has changed in so many ways. I'm such a different person than I ever was. And I can say honestly that I'm the best version out of any lifetime right now. And that's exciting for me to know that. So.
And it came through your discovering your mediumship skills and your psychic abilities. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sophia.
Yep.
Well, I just wanted to not fail to mention the fact that when something like Camp Chesterfield exists, when something like Andromeda 7, the Celestial Gateway exists, that helps people unfold, because I feel you can only get so far by yourself.
Right.
And you have to trust yourself and trust your guides and build, relationships, because I don't think we were meant to experience this on our own, and we can work together. If we have an experience, we actually have someone to talk to about it that's not going to side-eye us. That's the part of it that I don't know.
Or roll the eyes like, oh, here we go
it.
again. And it's like most people just don't understand. And that's the tough part about spirituality, in my opinion. Yeah, I've faced that as well.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. I really do.
Well, we appreciate you, Sophia, most definitely. Well, listen, you guys, we are coming to the end of the show. Any final thoughts? Anybody? Grandpa Brian, would you like a final thought?
I can't wait till near the end of July.
I would say that it's always good to remember that everything is in divine order.
Hang on a second, guys.
Yep.
We're getting Terry Ryan. The last name Ryan rhymes with Brian, and so Lori was asking Brian something.
Brian?
Yeah, and then we'll get to you, Terry. So Brian, go ahead with what you were saying because you both were talking at the same time. So go ahead,
Yes.
Brian.
Yeah. I can't wait to meet both of you gentlemen in the middle of July. I wish I had more time on my plate. I'm busy every weekend with the family farm. Otherwise, I probably already would have made my trip up that way. But I'm taking some vacation time, and it's just going to be a pleasure meeting both of you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Terry, Ryan, your final thoughts?
I'm just going to say, everything's in divine order, even when we think that there's nothing but chaos around and about us. The chaos plays its role in the world and in our individual lives to help us learn and grow, unfold and develop and grow stronger. And so when we have chaos, if we work at it, that too shall pass, and then order will be restored. But we've got to have the faith and know that there's a reason for all of it, even if we can't see it or understand it. Be patient, work at it, and we'll all get through it.
Well said.
Well said.
Well said. Very good.
Definitely. How about you, Reverend Charles? Would you like a final
Yeah, I think
final thought?
Yes, I think one of the things that I would like to say, just generally to anybody who's listening, is don't take yourself so seriously. You know, you're not going to make it out alive in the end. So just enjoy the journey. And enjoy the journey as you're walking along, because eventually, no matter how long it takes, you're going to get there.
Yes.
But whether it's in this lifetime or the next, just enjoy opportunities as they come. Don't take yourself so seriously. Love as many people as you can.
That's right.
Be kind. Try to leave people a little brighter than when you found them, and just do the best you can.
Yes.
Ooh, fist pound. Fist pound on that one.
Love it. Yeah. Perfect.
Woohoo.
Yep.
Perfect.
Delabor, anything? Any final thoughts for you, brother?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess I wish I lived closer to Indiana.
Yeah,
but,
don't we all?
I've only driven through it once in my life on the way to Michigan, so I can say, I even had a meal there, so I can say, yes, I've been to Indiana. But yeah, if I lived closer, I'd be all over that place. Yeah, I'd be taking courses there. Hanging out, socializing.
I've been checking out campgrounds. Are you kidding? I've been looking at campgrounds all around.
Yeah, totally. Because there's definitely a higher order, and I've lived my life, according to the mentalist principle. That is, everything is of the mind, and it's a lot more important to have true faith rather than belief in superficial things like science. Faith trumps science always. At least in my life.
I love that. Sophia, how about you, gal? What's your final thoughts? Any final thoughts?
I'm up in my headset. Sorry about that. Basically, I think I kind of jumped the gun on the final thoughts, but I just really want to thank Reverend Charles and Reverend Terry for coming on and sharing what they have, and just I'm so excited about my time with camp. We need to put on a cup of coffee. Yeah, I could go on, and I'm not even close to being tired of it. So I hope they don't get too sick of my wildness, because my heart's in the right place. It really
I'm sure you're refreshing.
Depends on the person. I'm not everybody's cup of coffee.
That's all right.
Well, you're our cup of Joe. Yeah, you're our cup of Joe, and you fit right in here.
Yep.
And we appreciate you introducing us to Terry and Charles. And
pleasure
we
and
look forward
honor
to meeting you all in person at the end of July when we come down for the festival.
You bet.
I just wanted to close this out with one thing, Lori. There's a periodical. There's a number of periodicals and books, but the Spiritualist Press, the Progressive Thinker, and the National Spiritualist, both Chicago publications, which apparently at one time were very popular in Indiana as well, says about all of you, including Chesterfield, to all its adherents, spiritualism has meant intellectual emancipation. Its workers inspired with the idea that unrestricted mental progress should be for every individual. Devote themselves to the task of carrying this message of spirit return into the world. And through the philosophy of spiritualism, which teaches of life here and hereafter, they touch on every subject that makes for improved material conditions in this material world. The organized spiritualists of Indiana and those at Camp Chesterfield are influential in all that is good for mankind. So, congratulations,
Here,
folks.
here.
Love it.
And
I'll
you've
drink
had
to that. Thank you.
numerous folks, and
Yeah,
we've loved and enjoyed our time with you. And I do have
absolutely.
one announcement, Lori.
Okay, go ahead.
We posted a link in our YouTube description page. We also posted a link on the website, on the Queen of Quartz Crystal Network website, on the main home page. You'll see a splash for Delaney Pearl Jones. She's a member of our community that is in need of emergency funds and assistance. It's one of the things we do, guys. Yeah, she and her son had to leave a very abusive situation. She has a special needs child, and she's been living out of a hotel and trying to get county assistance. The county has been helping her a little bit. She starts a new job at the first of the month, but in the meantime, they've kind of run out of funds, so she has to make it through the next couple weeks. And they were in her car last night because they've run out of places to stay. She's trying to get the county to respond to her so that she can set up her week ahead. But in the meantime, she's asking for assistance. Anything anybody can do to help her and her son with some cash flow so that they can find a place to stay. She's been staying at a Super 8. She's almost on her way to getting grounded now. She's got an apartment she's looking at with 2 other people that she might convince to move into that apartment. A lot of things are in the lineup, but she's got to get through this next couple of weeks. Is really, really going to be tough. And so they have basic needs that need to be met. Yeah, go ahead, Lori. Were you going to say something?
Everyone needs a little help once in a while. Just a little bit of help is all they need. Yep, and that gets them through it. So we know what that's like. Yeah.
So we've been announcing it all day. We put it out in Facebook, Messenger, all the heck over the place, Discord, everywhere. And I think I put one in Discord. Anyway, so people have been trying to send in as much as they can to help out. And the problem is the way the link works. So just go to your, like PayPal if you have it. Go to your PayPal. If you want to contribute, go to your PayPal account and type in the search bar DE Black Pearl. All one word, DE Black Pearl. And it'll bring up her picture and an email address with the Black Pearl. And that way you'll be able to make a donation. If you just click on the link right now, it won't work, but we're working on it. So if you could just do that, search on the Black Pearl, that would be helpful. Okay? So we appreciate that.
All right. Well, thanks again. Thank you, everyone in chat, for participating. Thank you, new subscribers. We really appreciate you all very much. Want you to have a very wonderful weekend. And we're going to close out the show tonight with that Digging Deeper, that new show that you and Delabor and Max and Marcia are, and of course, Karen are part of. So enjoy that, and we'll close that out. And much peace and love to everyone.
Bye, everyone.